Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another awesome weekly market forecast with me, Tremaine, guys. And in this one, guys, we're going to go through the DXY, Aussie CAD, Aussie Swiss franc, and New Zealand dollar CAD. So starting straight off with the DXY, guys, we're on the daily. And what we have a look at here on the daily is that we've got some resistance in and around these areas here. So looking at the structure on our left-hand side, we see market establishing some support and resistance in this area. Basically, we have been looking at how is price approaching this area and what is price doing when we get to this area. So nonetheless, we had this previous support structure there where obviously we identified that first of all, price was approaching in somewhat of a corrective manner. We then saw some nice, beautiful momentum pushing to the upside, breaking straight through this previous resistance. But what we see is as prices approaching this new level of resistance up there, we can see that we're seeing prices entering some sort of a consolidating structure. So looking at things from a daily perspective, we can obviously see there is momentum to the upside and we've entered some sort of a consolidating structure. So one of two things, guys, either we push to the upside of this structure and we give a nice, beautiful touch for our nice, beautiful momentum to the downside, or we see prices basically melting from these structural areas here. Now, looking at this nature of this price action on the 4 hour, what we will see is that prices actually have entered some sort of a consolidation phase. Now that our 4 hour chart has loaded, what we have here basically is we've got prices coming into this area, into this resistance area, reacting from this resistance area, showing us some downside momentum. And after we've seen this downside momentum, we've obviously seen prices inside of this extreme resistance and extreme support now creating structure within. So basically, we've got prices being stuck within some sort of a support and a resistance. Now, what we want to see before we start looking for our sell biased setups is we would love to see prices come to the upside, obviously, hopefully in a corrective manner, tap into our resistance area, and then give us a nice sell biased setup from this resistance area over here. So guys, what we're looking for is for prices to first of all come up and violate these resistance areas, then give us obviously our reversal structure, or if we don't get our reversal structure, we wait for that next set of momentum to the downside, which we then look for our continuation structures once prices have obviously broken back below our previous level of structure, and then we obviously retest for that downside momentum. So guys, simple sell bias on DXY, obviously looking at the structure and where we are right now in terms of this phase, we need to wait for this market to actually complete the structures and give us a valid sell bias setup before we start to trade any sell biases. So bearish bias, guys, over the course of next week for the DXY. Let's get into our next pair, and that is going to be Aussie CAD. So for Aussie CAD, guys, we're going to start off on the daily, and on the daily, just looking at this most recent piece of structure, what we will be able to see is a market that has been decelerating towards some higher time frame support in and around these areas over there. Nonetheless, we just isolated this smaller structure over here on a daily. And what we can notice about the structure is that we are in some sort of a descending structure. So we are making those lower lows and lower highs. How are we breaking structure to the downside? We're breaking so in a corrective manner, seeing prices breaking below levels of structure, breaking back above, and once again breaking below levels of structure and breaking back above. So looking at the structure over here right now, guys, we're currently at resistance or running towards this resistance area over here from a daily perspective. Looking at the structure, where would we like to see the markets coming back to retest? We've got our previous level of structure support over there that we've seen prices breaking below, breaking above, and from a daily perspective, we have not seen a bunch of red candlesticks coming back to retest this level of structure over here. So to us, guys, for that higher time frame setup, this is a beautiful level of structure where we could be looking for upside continuation trades from. So obviously, we need to wait for this setup to mature. Price is still quite far from this previous support structure here, but if prices do make its move all the way to the downside to this previous support that prices broke below, broke back above, and have not retested, this is our value area to trade this larger descending structure for that upside momentum. Now, coming into what we have here in terms of nature in the price action on a 4 hour is from a 4 hour, we can see that all of this nature that has been moving to the upside looks sort of similar. So obviously now warranting us to isolate the structure as a structure that has similar nature going on over there. So what we can see about the structure is that this structure has been in some sort of an uptrend, obviously not completing as yet at the 90% rule of our previous descending structure that we had here from a higher time frame perspective. So now looking at the current structure, guys, because we have this nice ascending structure here, nice potential for a beautiful third touch of structure, nice set of equal highs in this area here. What we're going to be doing, guys, on AUDCAD is we're going to wait for the structure to complete. So let's just adjust our current resistance trend line and accommodate for these structural highs over here. And what we can see is prices do have the potential to come straight to the upside, violate our nice, beautiful equal highs, and then obviously give us that beautiful third touch of structure, which we will then start to look for our bearish bias setups once we've seen a nice, beautiful third touch of structure, or if prices come into our higher time frame resistance, daily resistance area in these areas over here. So guys, basically what we're waiting for is for prices to come up, give us those probabilities, give us an opportunity to get involved into a higher time frame sell. Once prices are in this region, this is where we will begin to look for our reversal structures. If we fail to find a nice risk entry up top here, what we will then look for is for prices to break back below this resistance area. And then once again, like as usual, retest this previous resistance area, giving us a beautiful sell bias setup that we can be able to trade with the necessary probabilities, hopefully all the way to this previous support structure where we discussed from a higher time frame perspective, we could be expecting market to bounce off this area for that higher time frame structure to follow through to the upside. So looking at our structure here on AUDCAD, guys, for this week, we're going to be looking for our sell bias structure to basically play out and give us a beautiful sell bias setup to these support structures over here. So nice, beautiful sell bias, guys, over the course of next week or this week on AUDCAD. Let's go into some Aussie Swiss franc. So we'll start off on the daily on Aussie Swiss franc. And guys, on Aussie Swiss franc, what we can see basically is some downside momentum. So we basically see prices violating these support structures, so extreme support structures, and as well as these support structures over here. What we also have is some beautiful momentum violating these structures. And then obviously we have prices giving us a new lower low. So taking into account that information from a daily, observing the fact that we broke these support structures with some beautiful momentum, and after we've entered this nice impulsive phase, we've seen prices sort of entering some sort of a corrective structure. So what we've done for ourselves is we've isolated the structure that we now have from a daily on a 4-hourly time frame. So coming onto the 4-hour, having a look at the structure that we have here, we do see that we've got this previous support structure over here where we basically had prices violating right nice and impulsively, and obviously we've never seen a retest of this level of structure. Yes, prices did react from this area here, giving us what? Giving us a beautiful set of equal highs. Now we know that market likes to take out these equal highs, so all the better for us looking for that higher time frame momentum to the downside. So guys, simple enough, on Aussie Swiss franc, all we're waiting for is for prices to come up, violate these resistance areas. Once we come up and give a beautiful third touch in this area over here, this is the area or the region where we'll be looking for our reversal structures to then form. Once we find a reversal structure above our previous resistance, guys, we will be able to take those risk entries. If we do not find a nice, beautiful structure that gives us an entry up top, then we obviously need to wait for prices to break back below our previous resistance area, our nice set of equal highs, and then obviously retest our area nice and correctively, allowing us to jump into any sell side momentum and any momentum that might continue or follow through on this previous sell side momentum that we had breaking structure over there. So all we're waiting for, guys, on Swiss yen is for prices to come to our value area, which is our third touch of our structure, and as well as our previous support that has not been retested as yet. And once prices get to this value area, at this point of interest, we will then start to look for our entry criteria, which are bearish biased setups to allow us to trade this nice, beautiful bearish momentum that we've got on our left-hand side, and as well as our impulse correction, impulse structure. So that is our bearish bias, guys, on Aussie Swiss franc. Let's go on to the last pair that we're going to have a look at for today's weekly market forecast, and that is New Zealand dollar CAD. So guys, on New Zealand dollar CAD, what we have basically here in terms of structure is we've got prices coming obviously down nice and impulsively, breaking below these most recent support structures over there. So obviously once we've broken below these support structures there, we've seen prices coming back, almost retesting the area, but we've seen a nice follow through on some momentum. So we've seen a nice, beautiful impulsive move to the downside, obviously being able to violate some beautiful important structural support areas there on its way to the downside. So taking that into account, what we have here is a beautiful change, or rather nice change in structure. So we've most recently seen some resistance areas, previous resistance, excuse me, that was able to break our structure to the downside, now finally being broken above in terms of what the most recent price action has done. Obviously, if we drop down onto a smaller time frame like the 4-hour, we will observe that the nature of this break was not impulsive. Yes, price action did just pip above this level of structure, breaking above, breaking back below. So obviously showing us that prices have been breaking this level of resistance in a corrective manner. Nonetheless, how have we been approaching this resistance area over there? If we just take a look at the important key areas of structure that we have here from a 4-hour on New Zealand dollar CAD, we've got prices coming down, giving us some support, giving us some resistance, giving us new lower lows. Where are the new highs to have been formed after these highs have been broken? We've got higher structures over here. We then obviously have our lows. We connect our highs and lower structures, and then obviously we've got this nice, beautiful ascending structure over here. What we can see about this ascending structure is that we obviously have broken above correctively, and we've also broken the low of our ascending structure in a corrective manner. What information does this give us about our chart? That information tells us that we are within some sort of a range. Important resistance being up here, important support being up or down over there. So now obviously, because we're in some sort of a nice 4-hour sideways moving market, when we drop down onto the lower time frames like the H1, we have to treat this market exactly like what it is, a ranging market. Selling probabilities from the high of the range, buying probabilities from the low of this range. Now, obviously, we can see that we're at the low of this range for today, maybe even tomorrow. As long as price action is within the structure above here, we will be looking for, obviously, price action to bounce and give us setups in this area that allow us to trade any bullish momentum. Why? Because we are at the low of this range. So no matter how this setup presents itself, we will be looking for some bullish buy setups. If price action manages to break and close below the support structure, we will then pause, and we will not take any more trades, any sell bias trades on New Zealand dollar CAD. Once again, if we do manage to find this bullish buy setup that takes us to this resistance areas, we will be looking to manage our full position by the time we get to these resistance areas, because higher time frame structure is this nice, beautiful ascending structure, and we know that these structures normally break to the downside. So when price action does get to this area over here, we will obviously begin to adjust our bias and look for our new sell biased setups that allow us to trade this bigger, larger, higher time frame ascending structure all the way to the downside, guys. So for this most recent price action that we have here, the structure that we have here, guys, as long as we're within our structure, we're going to be looking for our bullish buy setups. Once we get to our resistance areas, we will be focusing on how can we capitalize on this higher time frame ascending structure and look for those sell biased trading setups. So guys, we have reached the conclusion of this week's weekly market forecast. If you guys have enjoyed the session, then definitely do drop a like on this video. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching until the end, guys. Definitely do subscribe to the channel. This is Tremaine, your FX Chaser's mentor. We'll see you guys in the future videos. Have a great week, guys. Cheers.